All right, speed round, Peter, as we get through the rest of the Sunday games. We talked a little bit about the COVID-19 issues that will affect the Baltimore Ravens. More pressure on the Ravens at Indianapolis to rebound, or on the Colts to show that they can play with the big boys?
More pressure on the Ravens with their lineup challenges, with 5 defensive starters being away from the team all week because of COVID precautions. They've got to show up and play a very good offense with Phillip Rivers having new life, and their running game has to figure a way to have a 200-yard day again against the number 2 defense in football. More pressure on the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with you that the Ravens do have to show that they can get past that loss from last week. They did a good job after they lost to the Chiefs in Week 3 on Monday night. They didn't let that turn into 2 losses. Last year, they did let their loss to the Chiefs turn into a second loss when they got beaten soundly at home by the Browns. So they've shown they can recover from a deflating loss, and there's a lot of good in that film. They outplayed the Steelers. You go back and watch that game, it's like, how in the hell did the Ravens lose this game? So I think they should feel confident, but there is pressure on them because, Peter, their next 3 games before the Steelers rematch on Thanksgiving night, much more difficult than the Steelers' next 3 games before that rematch when they wonder why that got a bingo. That's not a bingo, I'll go easy on the control room on a Friday. You had to force a bingo in. That's fine. I mentioned the Steelers. The Steelers going to Dallas for another game that they could play every year with 17 on the schedule. Wouldn't we love to see the black and gold against the blue star on the silver helmet more frequently? One of the great interconference rivalries in football. Not this year. Steelers undefeated, Cowboys thoroughly defeated, and it's going to be, and this is the NFL's version of the Lloyd Braun, George Costanza computer selling contest, as Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush vie for the opportunity to get pummeled by the Steelers defense. Whoever starts at quarterback for the Cowboys will what, Peter? Get off the screen.
Not be within 14 points of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what? The greatest stat of the week, Mike, is that the Pittsburgh Steelers go to Dallas, and the Cowboys have not been double-digit home dogs in a half century. And yet, I would take Pittsburgh even if the line was 20. I just would. And because I don't know what Dallas can do on offense right now to keep this game even remotely close. So, I mean, this is going to be one of those games like almost last night. Turn away. Just please turn away.
Look away. I'm hideous. This is...
Look away. I'm hideous.
This is a potential trap game for the Steelers if it wasn't Dallas, if it wasn't the Cowboys, if it wasn't America's team in that giant stadium with 25,000 fans present, and Ben Roethlisberger has never won there. He lost a Super Bowl there. He lost to the Cowboys there in the regular season after that. So this would be a great opportunity for someone to catch the Steelers napping. They're going to be wide awake and fully caffeinated in that stadium, even though the Cowboys aren't any good. All right, Panthers at the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes through 8 games this year has been what, Peter?
You know, an MVP in any other year but this one. I think there's so many quarterbacks playing so well. And right now, it'd probably be Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or Patrick Mahomes. I'd take Wilson, but I wouldn't bat an eye if you wanted to take either of the other 2 guys. Patrick Mahomes right now is getting to the point where he's boringly great every weekend. And I just think we're watching the Michael Jordan of pro football right now. And that isn't to say anything bad about anybody else who plays. Maybe Russell Wilson is Kobe Bryant, and who's another great player. Aaron Rodgers is Durant or the old Larry Bird. I don't know. But there is such great quarterbacking right now in the NFL that sometimes we forget that we're watching. I think once we all stop watching pro football, whatever day that is, whatever day they put us into the cold, cold ground, the day before that we'll say Patrick Mahomes is one of the best we ever saw.
Well, and I think Patrick Mahomes likes being overlooked and forgotten. Last year when he had that injury against the Broncos on a Thursday night and missed a couple of games, the game moves on. Lamar Jackson emerges as the MVP because Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing. And I remember when they beat the Broncos in the snow in December, I spoke to Mahomes after the game, and I said, you kind of like this vibe where no one's really paying attention? He said, I really like this vibe where no one's really paying attention. And what happens? They win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think Mahomes has been spectacular, but we are beginning to take it for granted because he set a bar that we just expect him to meet, and he meets it each and every week. So we get fascinated by somebody else who's performing at a new level that we hadn't before seen, like Russell Wilson. All right, the Raiders taking on the Chargers in L.A. If this game had fans present, it would be overrun by silver and black. Anthony Lynn's job security is currently what, Peter?
I think it's better than 50-50. He'll be back. But again, in week 9, there's so much football left to be played that if they keep blowing games like this, he's not going to be back. Because at some point, the buck stops with the head coach. It's just like we were talking about John Gruden. The buck stops with the head coach on this COVID deal. He's got to make it right inside his team, period. And as far as Anthony Lynn goes, you cannot lose 17-point leads every week. And that's what they're doing. You better figure out a way to do it. Or somebody else is going to be coaching the team next year.
0-3 with a 17-point lead. It's happened 3 out of the last 4 games. At Tampa, at New Orleans, and they had their bye. They beat the Jaguars, who hasn't, other than the Colts. And then it happened again to the Chargers this past weekend against the Broncos. I think that and this is the curse of having a great young quarterback, because this is a hell of an opportunity now for the Chargers to hire an A-plus list coach, because what's the first criteria for any head coach with options, Peter? What's my situation at quarterback? And when Justin Herbert has shown what he's shown so far this year, this is an opportunity, and I hate to say this because I really have a ton of respect for Anthony Lynn, but this is an opportunity for the Chargers to upgrade a coach, much like the Colts did when they had a young franchise quarterback in Peyton Manning, moved on from Jim Mora the Elder, got Tony Dungy, and the rest is history. Okay, Bears at the Titans.
Can I just say one last thing about this, Mike? If you look at the coaching availabilities in the offseason, you look at the New York Jets first, and you just say, okay, who's going to want to come coach Trevor Lawrence? That's a great situation. You look at the Houston Texans. They're kind of bad, they're in a bad situation cap-wise, and they got some older players, but you got Deshaun Watson. That's a situation for a great offensive coach. I mean, there's already 2 places that are going to look for coaches, and that is even before you look at the Chargers and what may or may not happen with Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, I'd be concerned about Houston because no first-round or second-round pick this year. Miami has that. And also, I want to know who the GM is, and I want to know what Jack Easterby's role is going to be going forward before I take that job in Houston. But you're right. When you go to a place with a franchise quarterback, you're better off. And usually these jobs don't have either a current franchise quarterback or a potential one in a Trevor Lawrence ready to go. Okay, Bears, Titans. Both teams have lost 2 in a row. Both teams had 5 wins before they started their losing streaks. Who's more in trouble if they lose and extend that streak to 3, Peter?
Bears. Because the Bears, if they lose again, you're looking at the possibility of a free fall with no solution at quarterback. And, look, Nick Foles has always been the great relief pitcher. But when you give him a chance to be the full-time starter, only one time, the dream year he had in Philadelphia, only one time has he been great. So to me, especially when you look at the Packers, and look, their next game is Jacksonville at home. The Green Bay Packers are going to be 7-2, 9 days from now. The Chicago Bears, if they lose this game at 5-4, they're going to be 2 games off in the loss column. I do not see with their offense how in the world they can make that up against the Green Bay Packers.
And when you've got 3 legitimate playoff contenders in the NFC West and 2 in the NFC South, even with a 7-team field, if you're the Bears, you're the team that's on the outside looking in. So I agree with you. The Titans can still work it out. The Bears, and I feel bad for Nick Foles. He doesn't have any protection. What's he supposed to do? The offensive line is horrible, and they've got COVID issues and injury issues on the offensive line in Chicago this week. All right, last game. Lions at the Vikings. The winner of this game, and if it's the Lions, they're 4-4. If it's the Vikings, they're 3-5. The winner is what, Peter?
I think the winner really helps the coach of that team continue to be able to send the message that the season's not over. And, the way I look at this is, Mike, obviously, Matt Patricia's coaching for his job. Mike Zimmer is not. Mike Zimmer's going to be back next year in all likelihood. But Matt Patricia's coaching for his job. And to me, especially with the difficulty he's going to have this week in not having Matthew Stafford available until game day, that to me is really, really troublesome for the Lions. And I look at one thing when I look at the Minnesota Vikings right now, Mike. Everybody said, oh my God, how did they go to Green Bay and beat the Green Bay Packers? That was the most unlikely result of the week, certainly. But you know what I say? At some point last week, Mike Zimmer sidled up to his offensive staff. Clearly he sidled up to the decision makers on offense, and he basically said, hey, listen, this is going to be a running game. Let us run the ball. And they give it to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin has 32 touches in this game. And what did they do? They know right now to not put the game in Kirk Cousins' hands. He throws 14 passes. And obviously the Vikings go in and win. So to me, when I look at this team, they're such a better team when they are run-oriented. If this is a 60-40 run game for the Minnesota Vikings, they're going to win this game.
And they've got a couple of former Vikings coming to town to make it even more interesting, Adrian Peterson and Everson Griffin. I think the loser of this game is done. I don't know what to think about the winner of this game because there's too many other great teams in the NFC that need to be caught if you want to try to parlay that victory into something in the second half. But I think the loser, for all practical purposes, is going to be done.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.